welcome to the Wrestling Momma Podcast. Today's episode features a truly incredible guest, Kim Forrest. She is a full-time accounting consultant, mom of 7, and the driving force behind one of the wrestling's brightest stars, Jax Forrest. Jax is a current junior in high school, but he's making waves as a top recruit. And behind every great athlete is a great mom. So Kim shares her journey of balancing a demanding career, a full house, and the unique challenges of raising a champion on and off the mat. So get ready to be inspired as we dive into Kim's world and hear what it takes to guide a young wrestler to the top while managing the chaos and joy of a big family. Let's get started. Okay, welcome. You're coming off a pretty big weekend of Ironman. Jax just won is it his third Ironman?
No, he's made the finals 3 years. This is the first time he actually won.
Oh, wow.
Luke, Lilladall in the finals both times.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Thank you. He's relieved. He has that one off his shoulders now.
Yeah, right. So for those that are watching, this is Kim Forrest. It's Jax Forrest's mother. And we're just going to take some time to get to know her and her family and just learn a little bit about Jax and growing up and what wrestling life is like for them. So let's go ahead and start by just tell me about your family.
So we have 7 kids. So I always start with that, and everyone's eyes kind of widen at that. Jax is our 4th child. So we have 3 girls, and then we have 4 boys.
Wow, okay.
So we have our oldest is Jalen. She's 25. She lives in North Carolina. She's an ER nurse. She swam competitively and swam in college. Next, we have Jessie, who's 21, and she is a senior in college. She plays soccer in college. And then we have Jovi, who's 19. She's a freshman in college. She plays volleyball and wrestled a little bit. And then we go into the boys. So Jax is our oldest boy. Then we have another boy, Jager, who's a sophomore in high school. Jameson is a 8th grader who wrestles. And we have our little baby Jude, who is only 3.
Yeah, so, I saw pictures of that. Yeah, how fun. Yes. I love it. You have any pets?
We do. We have one dog right now, a little girl named Bailey. So
Okay. And just tell me about your childhood, where you grew up. Did you come from a big family?
No, it was only me and my sister. But I grew up, both my husband and I, so we're high school sweethearts. We started going together when I was a junior in high school. He was a senior. So we both grew up in upstate New York in a really tiny town called Horseheads. I swam and he wrestled in high school. I started swimming when I was 4, so really young, and did the whole through college. So my weekends consisted of going to swim meets every weekend. So, and Howard was pretty much the same with wrestling. So we were like one of those weird like couples that like we couldn't wait to get older, and then we could like start shuttling our kids to like sports practices and stuff in the weekends. So yeah.
Okay. So you were pretty familiar with wrestling then?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So I started, my best friend in high school, her older brother was a wrestler. So I knew it a little bit through her. And then when Howard and I got together, I've been with it ever since.
Right. And tell me about where you've lived with your kids, because you're from New York.
We're originally from St. New York. So we had our very first one. She was born in New York. So we were in New York until she was about a year. And then we moved to North Carolina. And then we had all of our other ones in North Carolina, mainly around the Chapel area. So we were there for about 21 years before we moved to Pennsylvania.
Okay. And when did you guys move to Pennsylvania?
2021, I think.
Okay.
It's a little over 3 years, I think now. So.
And yeah. Was it specifically for wrestling?
It was a couple reasons. So we knew we wanted to move for wrestling. We weren't exactly sure where. So we were looking at Pennsylvania. We were looking at Ohio. I think those were really the main 2 areas, just because in North Carolina, it was not really like giving Jax what he needed to do what he wanted to do. So we didn't know exactly where in Pennsylvania we were going to land. So at that time, Jessie, our second oldest, was getting ready to go to college. So she was trying to figure out. So she was like, all right, we're going to be in Pennsylvania maybe. So I'm going to pick out a couple schools in Pennsylvania. And wherever she chose, we were going to move a little bit, within a reasonable distance of her. So she chose Mount Aloysius, which is about 40 minutes from here. And Jovi, our third daughter, actually goes there as well now.
Okay. Okay. It's just interesting because we moved from Illinois to Wisconsin and specifically to be in a wrestling community. We were from a small town. When our boys got a little older, we realized if they were going to be serious, they needed opportunities. So it's just interesting to hear another mom's kind of story because I think some people don't realize how blessed they are to be in, like to just be born in a great wrestling area. And that's like where we are. And like people that are from here, it's like, you guys don't understand how blessed you are. So did you visit different places and
Yeah, so for a couple of years before we decided to move, my husband was taking Jax to Pennsylvania to different areas. We had a good family friend from North Carolina. He was in the military and his family had moved up near the Pennsylvania New Jersey border. So Jax would go and stay with them for like a month during each summer, and he would just take them to different areas. So we actually trained a lot over on the east side of Pennsylvania, did come over to the west side a few times. So he really knows both sides of Pennsylvania. He
sure,
has been able to train a lot of different places. So that's how it kind of all started,
right?
coming up to Pennsylvania on the weekends.
Yeah. And my son wanted me to ask because I said, "Is there anything you want me to ask?" He said, "I want to know how and when him and Bo met, Bo Bassett." And I was like, "That's a good question."
Yeah, I think it was probably just on one of the first trips that Howard took them to the compound to do one of like their training weekends.
Sure.
Um, I do think they wrestled a couple times, like competitively before that, but they didn't
Okay.
really like get to know each other until Jax came up here for a weekend to train.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that was
Yeah.
like, gosh, I don't even know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe. I'm not even sure.
Right. Right. Yeah. Any fun stories about Jax when he was younger that you're willing to share? Anything that sticks out?
Thing that
Doesn't have
we
to be wrestling related, just
Yeah, he's there's a couple. Um, so he's always kind of been a more mature kid. Didn't He's got younger brothers that played with toys and like the little action figures and stuff. And one day, his little brother was playing with them, and he comes up and he's like, "Mom, I just don't understand why kids play with toys. They're just so boring." And I was like, I think because they're fun. I don't know. And then
right.
I have a picture that comes up on my memories on Facebook. I think he was probably about 4 years old. He was all dressed up in a suit. I had gone up in his room and like got a suit on and said he was getting dressed to go to work. So he's always had that like more kind of serious, focused, driven side of him
Sure.
compared to their siblings, I think.
Sure. Interesting. So then I mean, what were his interests then? What extracurricular activities?
When he was really young, he was obsessed with Rocky and Rocky movies.
Sure.
Um, so I'm not those really were actually we did get like the like figures, like you can buy the Rocky figures from each of the movies. We were able to find those. So those were the only toys he would ever play with. He would like line them up in the order that they were in the movie, and he would watch Rocky movies constantly. So that he was just kind of a little odd that way. Um,
That's funny.
yeah,
Well,
and then as he grew up, he did some soccer, he did football, he did basketball. He's just so competitive that we had to like have him in just sports to like just burn off the energy and to like get that competitiveness out so he didn't like constantly beat up his brothers.
yeah, sure. Sure. Well, that definitely kind of explains his personality. Um, yeah. Did you always intend for him to wrestle?
I
Or
think my
was it?
husband did,
Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, he had wrestled growing up through college, and so he had just been waiting for us to have a boy, and we had the three girls. So then by the time Jax came, he's like, "Yeah, I finally got my boy. I finally got my wrestler."
Right.
So he kept like just ever since he was a little itty bitty baby, he'd be rolling around with them and stuff. He's probably done the most like that with Jax, because then it kind of gets harder to do that when you have a lot of littler kids running around. So Jax probably got the most kind of and the earliest start, I would say.
Yeah. When did he start
I think
practicing?
he was about like 5 or 6, probably, I would say. It took us a little while to find a wrestling club where we were in North Carolina because, there's not a whole lot. So,
No, yeah. That's what we found too, is a small town in Illinois. There was a little wrestling club, but it wasn't year round.
mm,
So they'd have like a little season and then they'd stop. So it was tough with a small town.
yep, same here.
Um, so do you remember when he first started competing, his first match?
Um, I I I got some of these questions and I was trying to ask Jack some of them and we have video of it. I don't think I was like personally there because when he was starting to wrestle, we had girls in kind of other sports, so we had to like divide and conquer. So there was a
Sure.
lot that I missed when he was really little. But there was one tournament. He's like, "Yeah, I think I won my first tournament," and I was like, I remember like watching a video and you actually called your own pin and like stopped wrestling. And he's like, yeah, that was in the finals of that tournament. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
okay. So yeah, there's like this tiny, tiny little Jax and he like pins and you see him like slap the mat and get up and everyone's like, no, you're not done. So I'm like, yeah,
Oh, that's good.
much Jax.
That's good.
Yeah,
Um, so how is it for you during his matches?
I am a nervous wreck.
Are you? Okay. So
Everybody.
yeah, right. I
There
do.
are some people that can like sit as calm as can be and watch, and I'm unfortunately not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it.
I'm like, and the way he wrestles doesn't make it any easier because
Oh, yep.
he just
He
does
keeps
so
it close. He
yeah, it's
really
either
does.
like, he's winning, pretty heavily, or it's like super close. And I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But yeah, at least
Um,
he's entertaining.
yeah. So then, what are some of the major accomplishments you would say for him so far? Because he has many.
Oh gosh. So Super 32. I mean, I guess Powerade, Ironman, Super 32. He's done in high school. He got
Nice.
his state title last year
Hmm.
um, in Pennsylvania. So those were kind of like the big ones for high school. I think the biggest thing there's two biggest ones, I think he would say. Making the Olympic trials
Yeah.
and getting fourth there
I was
is
just, yeah.
probably a highlight of his.
Yeah.
Um, he probably wouldn't say this is a highlight, but it's another one getting silver at the Worlds for the U17s over in Rome.
Sure.
Um, that's probably like his least favorite moment, but it's, he did something really great and like, you have to celebrate it.
Yeah.
Um, and then he did go to senior nationals this past, I don't even know when it was, and he was fourth there. So I think it's just he's been able to, in college opens.
Hmm.
He's always one of those kids that like always has to go a step like a level above of what he was. So, and he
Yeah.
was in eighth grade in North Carolina. He was wrestling up in high school in any high school tournament he could. So now that he's
Yeah.
in high school, he wanted to do college and he wanted to
Right.
do senior level stuff. So he's been lucky enough to have some success on that level too. So
Yeah. Is there any certain hero he looks up to besides Rocky?
I mean, it was funny. I talked to him about it. I'm like, do you have a hero? Do you have? And he's like, well, dad, of course. But other than that, not like a person. I would say Rocky.
Did he?
Like, oh my gosh. But he has like this weird thing, like in different points in his career, he watches different, Rocky movies that correspond with what he's doing. So when he lost at regionals this past year in high school, um, and so there was like a week or so in between. And so he's like, this is my Rocky 3 moment. So he was watching Rocky 3 like on repeat because,
Yeah.
Rocky loses to Mr. T at the beginning and then he comes back and has his rematch and, kills him. Not kills him, but like
Yeah.
beats him pretty bad. And so, yeah, he calls that like his Rocky 3 moment. So he likes to correspond his life to Rocky movies for some.
It's motivating for sure.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
Um, so explain your role as a wrestling mom. What are some things, your responsibilities, things that you do for the family and for Jax?
I kind of I think we do a little bit of divide and conquer because we have such a big family and we have other kids in other sports. So, especially in the, I mean, because wrestling is year round. So, in the fall that we just had, Jesse was playing soccer, Joey was playing volleyball, and Jax was wrestling, and Jameson was wrestling. So, I would kind of handle the girl stuff. Howard's always been more of the kind of wrestling person anyway. He coaches them. He like has done it. He knows what to do. So he kind of handles. I'm just here for support.
Sure.
I'm just like, you want to talk about it? I'm here. If you want some encouragement, if you want some Bible verses sent to you, I can do that.
Pray for you.
Just
Yeah.
yeah, pray for you, anything like that. And so I kind of just stay in the background, let Howard handle the stuff, and I can just do whatever else needs to be handled.
So
But
do you
I
guys
also,
try to attend as many events, tournaments as possible?
yeah,
Yeah.
like the fall was a little difficult because uh, during the week we were kind of going to all the girl stuff that we could because on the weekends Jax would be having stuff and Jameson would be having stuff, and then in the winter Jager, our other sophomore son, plays basketball, which is also in season. So
Oh, wow.
we're kind of going like, so like I have like this schedule on the refrigerator. So I guess I'm the organizer too. Just do
Sure.
that. A
Yeah.
schedule for saying, okay, Howard, we got a basketball game on Monday. We have a wrestling match on Tuesday. So trying to just keep us all straight of where we
Yeah.
need to. And
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot. And what can you credit Jax's success to? I mean, he is definitely elite. He's one of the top recruits right now. Um, he just seems like he's just got like boy of steel kind of. He's not, yeah, just everything he does going up to the next level. It's really neat to watch.
Yeah, I think it's him just constantly always wanting to be better and like just not satisfied with what he's done and always wants to do something better. Like he's just has more drive and it's a quiet drive. You know what I mean? Like, it's just he just wants to be better every single day and push himself and you know um, wrestle the best kids he can, which not a lot of there are kids that just aren't built like that. I wasn't necessarily, his mindset is so different from what I had growing up. Like I was always like scared of people, like, oh gosh, she's so good, or and he's just not like that. He's like the exact opposite. So he thinks he's right there with anybody, and I think that's part of the battle is going on the mat knowing that you can beat anybody at any given time.
Yeah,
Knowing the opposite is also true as well.
sure.
So, um, but yeah, I think he's just so super competitive. Um, and
Yeah.
and it's not just he likes to win. He just loves to go against the best people. So
He likes the competitive part of it.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely special. So does he have any other hobbies that he does kind of like during downtime that he enjoys?
He doesn't have a lot of downtime,
I'm
but
sure.
in the summertime he likes to fish. Um, and just he's just a thinker, so he just likes to go and think.
Mhm.
Um, he uh, hangs out with his friends. He just kind of does normal stuff. I think we try to make sure he has a healthy balance with wrestling because it takes up so much of his time and he is so focused on it that it's not like only physically draining, it's mentally draining for him because he is so focused. So we just kind of, let him just have chill time. If there's a week and he's burnt out by Wednesday or whatever, we're like, all right, take the night, if you want to take the night off, do it. Like that's what you need, then do it. And then he'll just hang out with his brothers or he plays a little bit of video games, not as much as his other brothers.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like on TikTok and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff too, just
Yeah.
to like get a break. But yeah, he's a
Sure.
pretty simple kid.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you struggle most with as a wrestling mom?
I
Besides, I'm sure
think,
the schedule is crazy, but
yeah, I think for me, it's the emotional part and seeing when things don't go his way and seeing the disappointment. It like just hurts me that much more because I was an athlete and I am super competitive, and I know how hard or how much that hurts, and I can't do anything about it, other than just sit there and support him and try to help him get through it. That is definitely the hardest thing for me is, you know, and yeah, because I see how much he wants it, and when it doesn't happen, it's just heartbreaking.
Mhm.
So,
Sure.
um,
Sure.
yeah.
Um, so what is a typical day for him like? I mean, he's
So, um, here they have 5 a.m.s, I think 2 or 3 mornings a week. He only goes to them one morning a week.
okay.
Um, so, but on that kind of day, it starts at 5 a.m. I think he gets up like at 4:15, and then they have to drive to the 5 a.m. He'll go to 5 a.m., hurry back, shower, go to school, have after school practice, and then if it's a duel, they'll have a duel. If not, they'll have at least a couple more practices. And then he gets home and I see him for a couple minutes and he scarfs a little bit of food down and then he's off to bed.
Yeah.
And then he gets done, he goes to bed and gets to do it all over again the next day.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, it's a little bit different now because we're in season, so there's duels and stuff that'll, break up the multiple practices after school at least.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
Right.
it's eat, sleep, school, and wrestle. It's pretty
Yeah.
much it.
Yeah. I think, like you said, sometimes during the wrestling season, when they are wrestling so much and so many practices, and like you said, they want to compete and they want to win and they want to do well. It's easy to get kind of lost in that identity of
Mhm.
being a wrestler and kind of realizing like, okay, take a step back. This isn't all there is to life. Um,
Mhm.
it's important, like you said, but it's eventually will end.
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah.
so I think sometimes we get a little overwhelmed with that too, is like, it's so much wrestling. Okay, well, are we honoring God with every piece of it? Are we
Hmm.
making sure that we're, it's not becoming an idol in that sense? Um,
Yeah, yeah. And
so,
when Wednesday nights he goes to church, they have youth group at
okay,
church, so like from 6 to 8. So he usually is rushing back, trying to get showered, and like
sure.
whisking off to church. Um, we've been having like a 7 a.m. Bible study on Friday mornings. So that is, another good addition that
Yeah,
the team started that I think over the summer. Um, so that's been nice. But the
yeah,
Wednesday nights for sure, like, is a good break just from wrestling, and it gives him a chance to, make sure he's honoring God and doing,
sure, sure.
keeping that part of his life going too, because yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
super important for
yeah.
him.
Um, so now the big thing going on right now in his life is the recruiting process. So he's a junior.
Yeah.
So he
Mhm.
has some time. Do you think that you guys will make a call um soon? I mean, I don't even really, I know that it all starts junior year and then I can see that you guys have been doing visits.
Mhm.
So what is that like? How does it
It's been
go?
pretty crazy.
I'm sure.
Like, so June 15th, before their junior year, is when you can first start getting calls. So the calls started June 15th. And then I think it was August 1st is the date that you can start having visits, whether it's coaches coming to your house to visit with you or you going on other visits. So um, like my other girls did sports, but they were not at the level at hit that Jax is. So this has like been like wow. So we
Yeah.
um so the summer was a lot of like coaches coming to our house doing home visits. And then we had a stretch of gosh, I don't even know. I've lost track of like we haven't been home in a weekend in like months.
Yeah.
Um, so we tried to cram them all in before high school season
Sure.
started. So we got all of them. He may have two more, but they won't happen until one may not even happen until March, just based on our schedule between high school season and the college schedule. So um, it's been pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So and sometimes our 3-year-old will come with us and gets we get to go on the football field and do this stuff and hang out with all these like really well-known people. And I'll look at Howard and be like, Jude is not going to know that he did any of this when he's, older. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of crazy that way that, we're like going to Penn State and going on the field and hanging out with Kale or going out to Oklahoma State with David Taylor, and he's meeting all these people and he'll have like absolutely no memory of it.
Yeah, right.
But it is really crazy, and yes, it's a very crazy experience, but I'm so thankful that, we've been able to do it. And both Howard and I have been able to go on every visit with Jax, to see everything and experience it with him, because it is a very unique opportunity that not everyone will get the chance to
So
have.
does he know, do you guys kind of understand, like, what are your top um, kind of priorities when you're choosing a school?
I think for him, it will be the faith community around him, around the school. He wants, and he's said this repeatedly, he's like, I'm not going to college just to be a better wrestler. I want to become a better person. I was like, yes, that's 100%.
Yeah.
The coaches and the partners, of course. I think location is probably going to be some kind of consideration, but we're trying to figure that out, whether, he would go on his own or if it would be somewhere that we would move family to again. We've done it before, so we have mixed feelings about that, but
Yeah.
we'll take that. I think it'll just depend on where he's leaning towards. Um, I think he has like a shorter list of favorites right now, but he just wants to take some time and really get to know um, the coaches and make sure he feels like that close connection with them. And because for him, it's not just a 4-year thing, it's a 5, 10, 15-year thing, because he's going to want to stay at that RTC and compete on the international level. So it's not like just a 4-year thing. He's like, I need to make sure that I'm going to be happy and it's the right place for me. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Does he know kind of like what career he wants to go into?
he's always wanted to be a coach.
Okay.
So he's thinking about some major sports management, sports something, and then minoring in business.
Sure.
Because there's, like 2 ways you can go. You can do like a young guns kind of model and do like the young kids and that, or you can go to like on the other end of the college. And I think he would rather follow the college side of wrestling right now, the way he's feeling. But yeah, we'll see. So in that respect, the business minor will come in handy, because it's becoming more and more like a business every day.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I see. Before, I remember that you couldn't even have a sponsor or be paid during college, and now you see, like, thank goodness, these college athletes getting respect, and
Mm-hmm.
because they are bringing in a lot of money and a lot of viewership, and so it's nice to see. Now, is
Yeah.
he sponsored by
He's Spartan
Spartan?
Combat.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, is with right now, and he has a couple other things that he's doing. Um,
And that
uh,
helps with like travel and
mhm,
competing. Yeah, because I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
be cheap.
and he's a member of the senior national team this year. So if he does
Okay.
international stuff, he could have some of that kind of covered by being part of the senior national team, which is very helpful as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, it's it, it's a lot with a
It
lot of
is. It is. Um, okay, with Jax too, you can tell like we've been talking about his faith and your faith. I noticed, I thought it was funny how his Instagram, how it says God first always, I wrestle sometimes. I
Mhm.
thought that was fun. But we can see that he's a very elite wrestler. He has tons of accomplishments. And I do love that he's so bold with his faith, and just like wondering if you're willing to share kind of your God story and um, how you got your faith.
Yeah. So I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school. My husband was raised Baptist. So when we eventually got married, we tried to find kind of a neutral place for us to worship. So we ended up finding a non-denominational, but it was a Bible-based church in North Carolina called New Hope. Um, and it was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was very contemporary, with the lights and the worship and stuff. And so
Mhm.
I just felt such a different connection to God in that um, kind of worship that I wasn't used to in the Catholic Church. Not that there's anything wrong with Catholic Church. Um, and so we went there the whole time, almost the whole time we lived in North Carolina. Um, and the kids were involved with it was called Hope Town. It was the youth group there. So he had a solid upbringing, in North Carolina. And then we came up to Pennsylvania and we still continued to, watch New Hope because we were still kind of like at the latter stages of COVID. So everything was still a little remote. So we kind of stuck to like our old church. So it took a little while, but we found a new church here through one of Jax's friends. And been going there. And I think Jax um, has just really tried to grow his relationship with God, and it's really sustained him through some of these like highs and lows that he has experienced with wrestling. And he is just really willing to use his platform for not just to promote wrestling, but to promote God and leading people to God. And he's like, I'm here to build his kingdom. So whether it's through wrestling or whether it's through talking about him in my wrestling interviews,
Sure.
whatever it is, that's what I'm here for. And, he's talking about going to college and, that's going to be a place where I'm going to be doing that too. And if they don't have a really high faith community right now, he's like that. Maybe that's why I'm supposed to go there and develop that with everyone in that
Mhm.
community. So
Yeah.
I think and he's always been very vocal on that front. And there was one quick story when I have a big family in North Carolina still, so we all go to the same church. Um, we were at a Christmas service together, and we were singing, and my cousin looked over at Jax, and he was like singing and like praising. And after church, he said, "I just got such a vision that Jax is going to be in the ministry somehow. I don't know how." And I was like, it just could have been a wrestling thing, like
Yeah.
it's so I think he just takes it really seriously and he just wants to, make sure that he brings all the glory to God because, he wouldn't be doing anything he'd be doing without him. So
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I mean, great job, Mom. It's not easy raising kids in this world nowadays, and um, he's yeah, he's fun to watch, and it's great to have people like that as role models for our kids too. So
mhm.
that's really great. Um, so how does he go about dealing with like weight class and weight cuts and all that? Is that pretty? I mean, I
He
know
can
he's
lose
he's
weight.
yeah.
um He has been in a position the last couple of high school seasons where just for the good of the team, it ends up he's the one that's going down. So this year is a little bit um, probably more of a challenge because I think his body's trying to grow a little bit and he's kind of having to be at a weight that's a little bit harder. But usually he will. I mean, if it were up to him, he'd go in there and just wrestle what he weighs.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that's probably the more healthy way to do it.
I
Our
know.
other son hates to lose weight too, has like,
Yeah,
negative willpower when it comes to food. And so we tend to be like, all right, you're not going to lose as much. We'll
yeah.
just, we were never real big weight cutters to begin with. So,
Yeah, it's just hard though. Like you said, when they have certain weights, it's like it's different if you just go in and wrestle where you weigh. But it is challenging because it's like, yeah, I don't like the weight cuts either. But when you have, well, you can either go 155 or 145, it's like, oh man, like that's a
yeah.
lot either way. So
Mhm.
it is, I mean, it's just part of wrestling, I guess. That's just stinks. So
Yeah, and that's what makes it so different than any other sport
yeah.
that people do is because there's such a big weight component to it.
Hmm.
So, and I think you just have to figure out where the kids feel most comfortable and most healthy and strongest, and from
Right. Um, You had mentioned that he would say that his dad is probably his greatest hero. So they seem to have a really strong relationship.
there.
Has it always been really positive with wrestling? with them?
Yeah, like it's been, I uh was pushed really hard as a kid, and so I'm very aware, and I've been very focused on making sure that we did not do that with any of our kids. And Howard's done a really good job. I think there was like maybe a little period where he was like really young, and I was like, I think you both need to like take a little break. And so that's, I think he played like a season of soccer, and they had a little break. This was like, maybe when he was 8 or something. But then ever since that, Jax is like, oh my gosh, I miss wrestling so much, I need to get back there and do it. And then Howard's like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so they've always been like super super close, and they, like I said, Jax was always a little more mature, so they've always been like buddies and talking about sports and stats and like this. So, it's always kind of been, and the two of them being the first boy. And so now he's able to kind of do that with Jameson a little bit, and Jager with basketball, because Howard loves basketball too. So he's been able to kind of have the relationship with each one of them on different levels. So
Yeah. And I think like we all have important roles as a wrestling mom. But I think too, is we were watching um, some of the tournaments, and we're like, what do you notice? And like, we noticed Jax's dad is in the corner with him. Bo Bassett's dad. Like, you see a lot of dads that are coaching them. And I know like there are elite coaches and stuff, but I think clubs are getting just so big too, the good ones, that they're trying to spend their time with kids, and they're just kind of, they don't have enough time. So that dad role / coach role, if it can be done appropriately, is really effective, because who knows your kids better
oh
than
yeah, yeah. I
than
think
we
it's
do.
really beneficial. I think it's also, it can be hard being a dad
Yes,
and a coach, and being able to kind of separate the two.
for
But
sure.
when it works well, it works really well.
Yeah, agree. Well, we are running out of time. Um,
Okay.
thank you so much. This was great, and good luck to Jax and your decision, and um, definitely be praying for you and your family. But yeah, it's an honor to be able to talk to you and just learn more about it. And
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it's been so nice to meet you.
yeah,
And
so nice.